Here are 19 times that Attack on Titan got way too dark. Just in case you're not prepared, these incidents go from dark to darker real quick. So let's brace ourselves and hope that we don't trample on our appetites. One of Isayama's favorite characters, Reiner, is not often talked about, but is probably one of the most heart-wrenching manifestations of emotional trauma in the series. And no, I'm not talking about his PTSD or depression, but rather his dissociative identity. Sometimes he's a warm, loyal soldier, and other times he's a cold-blooded warrior, completely unaware of the other. Couldn't have thought that the guilt of becoming a mass murderer would drive him into having a split personality. Don't want to imagine myself in such a situation, ever. Nor in the shoes of Keith Shadis, who is one of the very few characters in the series who remain unmarried. However, that's not due to his unrequited love for Carla Yeager. Before Erwin led the Survey Corps to great victories, Shadis was their leader, and under his command, they suffered so many casualties that he couldn't bear it anymore. To this day, he carries the weight of their blood and quite sadly, punishes himself by refusing to find happiness. It's kinda sad that despite being the softest, kindest, and most peace-seeking character in the story, Armin's first kill was in fact a human. I expected it to be a Titan, but instead, when his group was being chased by Kenny's anti-personnel squad, Armin pulled the trigger to defend Jean and ended up killing one of its members. Not the ideal coming-of-age ceremony I would have expected to have. And almost by the stroke of a sadistic twist of fate, it's ruthless how the softest characters in the show, the kind-hearted Armin and the weak-willed Berthold, inherited the most destructive Titans of all, the Colossal Titan. And if you thought that was eerie, wait till you hear what I found out about the Eldians and Marley. The way they were treated has a similar depiction to how the victims of the Second World War were treated. They were deprived of their property, insulted again and again, restricted from the cities, and kept within isolated zones. If you know your history, the Star of David that they were forced to wear is similar to the Eldian armbands. Additionally, Erwin Smith's name comes from the Nazi general Erwin Rommel, who, similar to the Scouting Legion commander, was a brave military leader, not driven by political ideology or money. And yet the irony is that many native Africans were eventually led to their end under his command, much like the Scouting Legion recruits that charge into their own deaths on Erwin's orders. This story is especially cruel for showing a loving and dedicated mother in the form of Carla Yeager, only to take her away in the very next instant. Her death at the hands of the creepy smiling Titan, who happens to be her husband's ex-wife, laid the foundation of this series' nihilism, and the audience just can't help but shed a tear when she begs for Eren to return to her side because she doesn't want to die alone, despite sending him away at first and lying about her legs being broken. And remember that girl Kaya that Sasha saved? Before she was rescued by the Potato Girl, she was abandoned by the people of her village, along with her disabled mother. When a small Titan entered their house, her mother let herself get eaten to let Kaya escape. Since the Titan was so small, she couldn't meet a swift death like the rest of the victims in the series. Instead, she had chosen to die slowly and painfully. It's always the mothers and their immeasurable love against the Titans, huh? At Utgard Castle, after being attacked by the Titans and sustaining a head injury, Gelgar wanted to die peacefully by drinking the wine that he had saved up. But sadly, when he picked up the bottle, it broke his heart to find it empty. Without any plot armor, he was then grabbed and the usual Titan's dining habits ensued. I can't imagine a more cruel end, as up to his final moment, he demanded to know who emptied his bottle. Definitely one of the darkest deaths in the series. And not all deaths are made equal, I guess. Among those in the Survey Corps, Mike Zacharias' death still stirs the most horror. The brave leader who built hope into every one of his subordinates easily broke down and his upright life came to an end as he whimpered and begged the Beast Titan to spare him. You know what happened next. If nothing else, his death shows just how pitiful the reality of the human heart is and just how vulnerable one becomes in the face of death. Annie, the one ruthless assassin that comes to everyone's mind. Although she was forgiven in the end, I think that no amount of apologies could ever make up for what she did to Levi's squad. She slaughtered them mindlessly and then went as far as to just spin them around and toy with their remains. This again highlights the dark reality of the Attack on Titan world, where the cold-blooded murderers were forgiven in the end, while people like Hange and Mike died meaninglessly. Most believe that Eren's psyche flipped after he saw the future, but that actually isn't as true as it seems. What makes them believe so is the havoc that he wreaked upon the civilians and the children of Marley in his quest to obtain the Warhammer Titan. But if we rewind a little and go back to the Stohess district where he fought the female Titan, it doesn't take a genius to notice all the mindless damage he caused to the city. He rampages out of his hatred for Annie's Titan, and kills multiple civilians in the act, children and adults alike, long before he even knew about the future or the reality of the Titans. One of the most nauseating moments in the entire story is probably Founder Ymir's terrible life and death. What's even more miserable is the fact that the man whom she takes the fatal arrow becomes the one to make their young daughters consume her flesh, raw. Inheritance laws and morals aside, I don't know, perhaps he could have at the very least done some cooking. Ugh. To kill or be killed is the most recurring theme of the story, but no amount of medicine will ever be enough to digest the death of the Reese family. Many Titans have trampled on innocent children, but it was almost always due to their natural instinct, and somehow it was bearable. Until Eldian Dr. Grisha Yeager came along and slaughtered even a 10-year-old in cold blood for nothing but the powers of a Titan. But I guess I don't blame him for that. I mean, you get to become an all-powerful Titan, and everyone else just becomes ants from your new perspective. Well, that's until you realize you only have 13 years left to live. One of the greatest tragedies in the show is that Eren only learns about this time limit with 4 years on his life left. What a bloody price to pay for a power that nobody ever asked for. Season 4 opened up with one of the greatest power shows in the history of anime, with Eren shattering the dreams and bones of the people of Marley. But even then, crushing the Warhammer Titan shifter between the Jaw Titan's teeth remains the most stomach-churning moment of the arc. For comrades who grew up together since childhood, being the reason behind Lara's death and tasting her very blood must have left Porco sick and traumatized to his core. And if you thought that was bad enough, that only comes second to the fact that Eren forces his friends and comrades to wipe out the residents of Marley on his behalf, despite always putting their lives and well-being first. He knows Armin couldn't kill anyone, yet he forces him to destroy multiple ships at the Marleyan ports. And mind you, this is the same Eren that got himself eaten just so Armin could live. It makes me wonder what went through his head that cracked his psyche to such great lengths. It's almost tragic. But also understandable, because as more and more secrets are uncovered in the series, nihilism and hopelessness become an embeddable part of each of our heroes' minds. They spent their whole lives thinking that they were the last humans remaining on Earth, only to find that there were more, only that they wanted them dead. They spent their whole lives hating and killing the Titans, only to find that the real villains were hiding among them as their comrades all along. Especially Eren, who lived his entire life swearing to avenge his mother's death, only to find that it was he who caused it. On to Eren's final goal, the Rumbling. It is popularly believed that his true and honest intention was to unite Marley and Paradis against himself by becoming the ultimate enemy. In reality, though, the Rumbling was intended as nothing more than a ruthless wipeout of the Marleyans, because Eren had already seen how impossible it was to bring peace in a world like theirs. His only intention was to wipe out enough of the enemy numbers so that they would live in fear for generations to come, and his people in Paradis could live the next many years in peace. Throughout the story, his only goal was to find freedom, and when he realized he couldn't find it no matter how hard he tried, he wanted at least his friends to be free. And the price he paid for that was with the blood and bones of the Marleyan men, women, and children. Do you know how many humans were killed as a result of the Rumbling? The answer is in the comments. Remember to sub! Bye!